Hello, everyone, and welcome to the RV Inspection and Care Podcast. I'm Dwayne, and I'm a certified RV inspector. And today we're going to be talking about the top 3 things that you're going to need for RV flat towing. In other words, flat towing a vehicle behind your RV. Before we get into that, though, let me invite everybody who's listening to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of the great episodes coming up. And please visit my website at rvinspectionandcare.com. There's tons of articles and videos there about RVs and RV life, and I'm sure you'd find something that's helpful. But let's get back to our topic today, and that is about the top 3 things that you're going to need for flat towing success. And when we say flat towing, what we're talking about is that towed vehicle back in the back having all 4 tires on the ground. You know, a few weeks ago, I made a video about the best vehicles to use for flat towing in 2022. But this video is completely different. It's about the most important things you're going to need to make flat towing a success. So let's get started on the list because there's 3 of them you've really got to pay attention to. Number 1, you are going to need a tow bar and a base plate to make flat towing a success. The tow bar goes in the hitch of your RV, has arms that go out, and then the base plate attaches to your towed vehicle. And that's what the arms of the tow bar connect to and pull your vehicle down the road with. Well, the thing is, before you buy any vehicle out there, before you get a vehicle for flat towing, make sure that a base plate is available for it. The reason I say that is these days it's hard even getting tow vehicles with the supply chain issues, but even if you get the vehicle, you may be surprised that the base plate is not available for some reason. So before you get that vehicle, make sure you have the base plate to connect to that vehicle for your tow bar to hitch into. Now, the next thing to decide is whether you're going to install that base plate or not. And let me say this, if you're not a really good mechanic with some really good tools, then you probably should have someone who knows what they're doing do it for you. That's because base plates take a lot of alteration in many cases of the towed vehicle to be able to fit in. Sometimes things have to be cut out or screwed in, and if you don't know what you're doing, you may not do it right. So decide whether you're going to do it or not. If you're not going to do it, get somebody who's really good about making those kind of alterations to vehicles. The next thing is to get a tow bar that fits that vehicle. Now, the reason I say that is some vehicles are very light, like a Fiat 500. Almost any tow bar is going to work with that. But suppose you want to pull a full-size truck. Well, then that's quite a bit more weight, and you probably should make sure that you get a really heavy-duty tow bar that's going to fit that kind of weight. So match the tow bar with the weight of your vehicle. The next thing to consider is what brand are you going to buy? Well, there's 2 major brands on the market. One is Blue Ox, the other is Roadmaster. Honestly, either one is great. I mean, you're going to read people or hear from people that say, this one's better or that one's better. The reality is they both are used extensively by RVers all over the place with very good success. So just make your choice and go with it. And you really can't go wrong either way. All right, so that's your tow bar and base plate. Now, the second thing you're going to need is a braking system for that towed vehicle. That's because when you're going down the road, it's not on. It's turned off. So there's no way for the brakes to be working in any way while you're going down the road. So you have to come up with a braking system for it because it's a whole additional weight that you're pulling back there. If there's braking on the towed vehicle, it makes it so much easier for the RV to use its braking system. Now, you have a couple of choices here for braking for your towed vehicle. Number 1, you can get a built-in system. That's super easy, super convenient when you're towing, because all you have to do is just plug it into the wiring harness. And so when you put the brakes on up in the RV, the brakes go on back in the towed vehicle as well. Very easy, very convenient. When you're done, you just unhook and so on. However, those kind of built-in braking systems are a super challenge to install. They're not easy at all. Installation can be very expensive because they don't go in real quick and easy either. In fact, a very experienced person may take several hours of installation time. And of course, we know how expensive that can be when mechanics are doing that. So it can be expensive to not only get the built-in braking system, but also to have it installed as well. So there's another way to go here that you could choose, and that is to choose an inertia brake instead. Inertia brakes are really just boxes that fit right in front of your driver's seat usually. And that box has an arm that comes out and attaches to the brake pedal. Now, it works on inertia. So when you put on the brakes, well, you lurch forward usually, right? When it detects that there's a lurching forward, it pushes that arm and depresses the brake pedal. So when you put on the brakes up front and lurch forward some, well, then in the towed vehicle, that box senses it and it puts the brake on back there. Generally, they work pretty well in most situations. But here's the con with those kind of inertia brakes. They must be set up every time you tow. You can't just leave it in there. It's not a set it and forget it. You've got to put it in, take it out, put it in, take it out every time that you tow. The good news is, though, that it can be transferred from one vehicle to another. So it's not like that built-in system where it's really hard to take that out once you've installed it because you've made it part of your braking system. But with an inertia brake, if you decide you want a different towed vehicle back there, well, you just change the vehicle and the inertia brake can be used with it. So it's very convenient in that respect, but it takes a lot more work to put it in, put it out, and set it up every time. So when it comes to braking, you have your choice. Do you want the convenience of just plugging in every time in a matter of a minute and being ready to go for your braking? Or do you want to save money with the inertia brake because they're much less expensive than buying the built-in brake and then having it installed? So that's your choice there. Now let's move to our third thing that we are going to need for flat towing, and that is a lighting system for that towed vehicle back there, because you need to be able to put the brakes on the back of that vehicle so people can see it, or put your turn signals on so they see that you're turning. Now, once again, there's two options. You could go with the built-in option, and again, it's going to require a lot of installation. It's not quite as involved as the braking system, but still, it's going to be expensive to have someone install it for you. Now, if you do it yourself, that'll be fine, but again, you better know what you're doing when you tie in to the electrical system in your vehicle back there. But the good news is, once you do, again, it hooks into the motorhome wiring harness. So when you put on your turn signals in the front, they go on the back of the vehicle. When you put on your brakes up there in the RV, it goes on back there. When you put on your lights, your driving lights, well, that goes on too. So again, very easy, very convenient. Plug and play, so to speak. However, there is another way to go again. You can also buy an auxiliary lighting system, and these are usually made up of magnetic lights that go on the back of the towed vehicle. They sit right up there on the roof. They'll just suck right onto your roof with the magnets. And then there's a wiring system that goes down and you hook into the wiring harness with it. Now, the great thing about these auxiliary lights is they're super cheap. They're only about $30 or $40 for a set, and you're off to the races. The cons on it is, again, you're going to have to set it up every single time. And you got to be careful, because if you get it on paint, sometimes the movement of the wind can cause the wiring to actually scar the paint or mar it. So you got to be careful with the way that you set it up every time. So again, there's a choice. Are you going to spend the money to have a built-in lighting system done, or are you going to use the auxiliary lighting instead? It's entirely up to you. Well, those are the three things you're really going to need to think about before you get that towed vehicle. What I recommend is, before you get whatever vehicle you're getting, do your homework. Number one, find out, can that vehicle be flat towed? Not all of them can. If it can, find out if it has a base plate available for it. Then choose your tow bar and base plate, and then make the decision, are you going to put a built-in braking and lighting system, or use an auxiliary one instead? There's pros and cons either way you go. Well, that's it for now. Have safe and happy travels, my friends. Until next time.